Good day everybody, welcome to a special video on this channel. Now, something that I did pose as a question a little while ago was all about resource. What are you lacking resource wise? Now, I've already reached out to people via the community tab. And by the way, if you don't know, in the community tab, which you can just click on the community tab, it's like right there on the main page, main mass page, just go down the community tab, press it. I like to get creating videos with the community. So you, the RichTheMan community, Marvel Contest of Champions community, can come together to have a look at, you know, things that we can put towards Kabam, look at and create top fives and create little kind of like guides, information, so much more. And one thing that I did put out about 4 or 5 days ago was a video idea about trying to find out what progression you are and what resource you are lacking. Thanks to everybody that submitted stuff. I went through them all and started to create a little kind of like tally sheet, which turns into a spreadsheet, which we're going to talk about in a minute, as to what resource you are lacking. And as I said, this covers progression, which was the first thing. The second element is looking at things within resources, rank up materials, ISO, gold, right the way through to revives, and also acquisition of certain champions. You know, there's a whole host of things. For me personally, at the moment, one of my biggest problems is Tier 5 basics. As a Thronebreaker player, and especially though as someone that has become non-spending in Marvel Contest of Champions, now entering in my third full month, I've had to kind of be very careful about how I change my grind philosophy, where I grab stuff, how am I acquiring things like ISO and other things like that. So I've had to up my grind in different areas in order to secure what I need to in order to make advancements. But one of the main things is I burn through Tier 5 basic more than anything. Also, I have to make sure I manage my stash because I don't have the range of inventory limits that, say, Sigil players have. I have to be very careful about what's running out, what's running low, what I can keep in my stash, what I cannot. Especially with Tier 1 Alpha, Tier 4 Basic, and as well Tier 2 Alpha. But, you know, I have plenty of Tier 2 Alpha. But I have to manage that very carefully. And the problem is rank ups. Like, I have to make sure, like, okay, well, what am I ranking up for whatever reason? Do I have to make this decision now? Can I hold off? Is there something like a level up event on, which, funny enough, by the time I'm recording this video, I'm kind of like, I don't know if it will be out by the same time, the level up event is on. But, you know, that's just my process. I will wait until that in order to grind it, and then I'll kind of like put that in to make sure I'm getting as many milestones as possible to get things like signature stones without so much of kind of an issue, and making sure I'm spending my gold in the most logical way possible. But that's not the same for everybody, because everybody will have a different type of take on what they will need resource wise. This video is very important as well because I will be submitting the data to Kabam to kind of give them an idea of what players are lacking at their particular progression. So let's have a look at this spreadsheet of data. Now, as I said, we had 209 comments, and so 209 people, or maybe like some people doubled up, I don't know. But essentially, we had 209 comments that kind of ranged in what players were needing and requiring over different sections and sectors. And as I said, this is really important. This is fantastic information that we can then submit to Kabam and say, look, you know, maybe it's important to look back at some of your rewards and how you're doing stuff, like monthly stuff. Even after monthly content, I'm still chomping at the bit for Tier 5 basics, especially because I've got too many Tier 5 class catalysts and not enough Tier 5B to get those champions up. And the same thing with Tier 2 Alpha, that will run at a certain point, but definitely Tier 5 basic. In any case, just touching on some kind of fundamentals first. From an Uncollected and Conqueror point of view, I mean, look, you know, you're at the point of like building stuff, but definitely it's to be considered. You're making early gains in Marvel Contest of Champions, and especially when you get into Uncollected and looking at Tier 2 Alpha being a big fundamental problem. As you're starting to get those 5 stars, getting them up to further ranks, pushing towards, say, first rank 5 champions, maybe even like many rank 5 stars, you're kind of getting close to them. That's kind of something that's going to be quite important to you. And to a lesser extent, that Tier 5 basic, which those two go in hand right there. Cavalier, and that's part of the business end of your career in Marvel Contest of Champions. Interesting to note that Tier 5 CC, which, look, you know, there seems to be a lot more in Cavalier between Tier 5 CC, Tier 5 Basic, Tier 2 Alpha, and Tier 1 Alpha, as well as Gold, which are vitally important for Cavalier players. And that's something to kind of note. You are making these early gains, again, same thing with Uncollected, but more so because you're trying to make that jump up to Thronebreaker. And that's an issue, because you're like, okay, well, I need to get like 565s for the very first time, and you're looking at the cost of things and going, okay, well, you know, what am I doing with this? How am I getting this stuff? Tier 4 class catalyst as well is a key element to what you grind, and glory store resets are going to be what you grab. But I've heard a big shout in some of these comments for selectors, especially in the glory store, to have more kind of availability and especially higher volume to kind of get them up. You know, I'm looking at a rank 4 5-star champion, and you're like, okay, well, it's 2 tier 5 basic catalysts. That's fine. Okay, people are looking for that. They have said about that as Cavalier players, and the volume is important because you want to be doing content as well. Cavalier players are looking to kind of like do content, grab tier 5 CC wherever they can. Is it a case they're going to have to like really push through to get some things done with Act 6, Act 7, stuff like that? Is that the way you're going to avoid the stuff of Act 6 and Act 6.4.6 with that Grandmaster fight? You've got to make some decisions about where you're going with it. So I do see that. One of the biggest things that came up from the data and the info was champion acquisition and shard acquisition. So the reason that's got 8 there, it's definitely a good shout from players saying like, right, we're Cavalier players, we are not getting a high volume of shards. Maybe it's a case in the 6-star variety, which look, they're going to need in order to find a 6-star that they can rank 3 in order to get themselves up on that Thronebreaker type platform. So that's something that's going to be quite important. Something to return back to and do, but still kind of looking for acquisition being a big element, and especially selection, which look, with Nexuses, it's been a big part of our kind of like future and grind with Marvel Contest of Champions. When it comes to Thronebreaker, however, Thronebreaker is a different kettle of fish. As I said, it seems to be interesting to share the same problem with other Thronebreaker players as I have a problem, and that is indeed with tier 5 basic fragments. Tier 5 basic fragments seems to be a bit of an issue. Just having a quick look on screen now of my particular stash. My particular stash is up to 8, and you kind of, I probably think, oh, Rich, you must have like a ton in your stash at the moment. Let's have a look. Stashy, and the answer is no. So I only have 8. Okay. Oh, that kind of like really get me places. And I do have rank up gems, but that really get me places, wouldn't it? It really get my those rank 3 6-stars that I'm looking to get. Yeah, that's possible, isn't it? Well, I could do 2. I could do 2 rank 3 6-stars of the what is about 6+ that I could do at the moment. So tier 5 basic, as soon as I got it, it's like gone. So I have to be very careful with what I'm ranking up. I can rank up 1 6-star now, and that's great, apart from the rank up gems. But if I was using tier 5 basics and I was going down that route, I'd be able to do 1. But then it's like, right, well, if something comes my way that's a pretty spicy champion, I'm like, well, I can't really do that. I could do 1, and then I could do the other, but then I'm down to 0 again. And to get that tier 5 basic has taken months. Like, I can't remember. I think it's probably like early last month I did 1. So maybe I could do like 1 6-star rank 3 a month. If I wasn't doing any Act 7 content. And in the last month, I have done Act 7.2.5 right the way through to 7.3.6, 100% in that length of time. So if I didn't do that, I would be like without any. Yes, I could go and do some Karina's challenges, but I wouldn't have the time because we got Act 7.4. But there's no reoccurring. The point I'm going to get to is reoccurring. And you can look to things like, okay, well, I'll do Cavalier difficulty and the monthly stuff. And that's good again. But the problem is we still run out of that tier 5 basic very, very quickly. So it's like saying, okay, here's a new 6-star. When can I rank 3 it? Or you could probably do about 1 a month. And it's like 12 a year. And it's like, well, it's not really it for reoccurring content. But if it's a case like it's something else, and it's a good shout at the moment to say, okay, well, why don't we go down the route of a tier 5 basic or a basic catalyst arena? The same thing with tier 5 CC, and it's something that I've called out for a little while with it, but I don't know if Kabam are interested. I think it's a good shout for it because the glory store is good. It's a good thing, right? But again, same problem is players are running out unless you put a new progression titleage in place, which I don't know if it's the right time for it. But in any case, I digress. Tier 4 CC, for those that are Thronebreaker players, 19. 19 people said about that. Then gold is a very hot thing at 21. And gold's like, without the compensation I got for playing Realm, and if I did not have that, I wouldn't have as much gold. I am doing more arena grinding because I need the units for things like July 4th deals. As I said, I don't spend anymore, so I need to kind of like think about my acquisition of units, my limited spend on things of resources like potions and revives, to then save those units for things that are more meaningful content, Green challenges, July 4th deals, Cyber Weekend deals, potential other deals that come my way. Getting through content that's maybe difficult, but I do try and avoid that. And I've done very well in not spending in 7.2.6 and 7.3.6 by playing better, but also getting more revives and health potions from repeating lower content and doing 22-hour events. So do you in order to like get it back. But tier 1 alpha is another thing that's highly mentioned as Thronebreaker players, as well as, you know, anything else. ISO 8, that's another thing. And I would say anything that's like, this is one of the other reasons that I've stopped doing things like the featured crystals, is volume of tier of ISO 8. When you're going to stuff like featured, you're spending 5k extra shards. And I'm like, if I minimize my extent of spend and go, okay, well, I'm happy with my roster I've got, anything new, I don't know if I'll need. But if I go, okay, well, if I go, instead of a 6-star featured hero crystal, I go for a 6-star basic, I've saved 5k shards, which can then help out to get more ISO in different areas, depending if I dupe a champion or not. The same thing with 5-star shards. I tend to go dual class because, again, I get more shards as a result, and go away from the featured grind because of the loss ratio on ISO 8 as a result. But that's, again, down to a personal choice on how you want to be more be very savvy with taking home of ISO versus, you know, new champion that's kind of like hot champion, decent champion, and stuff like that. And the chance of getting it as well. There's a lot of fundamental issues and things. There's also like a lot of people mentioning about like health potions and revives and stuff like that. And I definitely think there's places to go for it. I've definitely found processes that are better than kind of going, okay, well, I know Kabam are going to at some stage stop their compensation factors, but still we'll have to kind of like see how that goes to the impact. But definitely this was an interesting deep dive, so to speak, on the extent of like what resources we're lacking the most and what we find that we're without. And it's definitely something I want to submit to Kabam and say, look, you know, this comes from player information. I don't know if they've ever done something like this on a Summoner Sanctum, but I think it's very interesting to go, wouldn't it be time to kind of like buff some rewards in certain places, add some quality of life improvements to the acquisition, add something in game like further arenas, something of a buff to things like glory stores, selectors in places. It definitely is like a time to look into it. A few people did mention the issue of the extent of rank 4 6-star materials, and I think that's a good point, but that's Kabam's premium item. A lot of time when it comes to premium items, the same thing with tier 5 basics and tier 2 alpha, Kabam kind of like treat it more like as a really top premium, and it's difficult to put it into a potential and like extensive grindable element to go and grab. The same thing, like they kind of go, all right, well, you know, gifting event, and the extent of like you had to overly spend and how it inflates the top kind of like ranks. Kabam ain't going to do anything for free to play anytime soon. It would be a miracle if they allowed more acquisition of it, or added tier 6 basic fragments or tier 3 alpha fragments into things like the glory store, for example. But I do agree it would be nice to see more of them, but I just don't think Kabam are going to roll it out into something like the glory store anytime soon, and we'd have to wait for deals, do Arenas challenges, Act 7 and Act 8 whenever that's released to see it, or the next I don't know, Abyss type thing, or of Legends thing. But yeah, there we go. That's been a video, a very interesting video. Thanks to all those people that gave some data for the video. Appreciate you for doing that. That's very kind. And we'll be doing more with the community tab in future for more vids. So look out for some topics very, very soon and get involved with it and all that stuff. So thanks very much for watching. Make sure to put in the comments. Is there something that you kind of feel like we need more of that wasn't in the listed stuff? But check out the content on screen right now, and I'll see you in the next video whenever that will be. Bye bye.